What is it? Tuesday? Oh, no, she starts in the new year.
Well, let's wait a minute or two because we know she's coming. Sorry. Good morning. It's 11 o'clock on Tuesday, December 15th, 2020. And this regular meeting of the Sandpoint Historic Preservation Commission is now called to order. For the record, I am Chairman Steve Garvin, present and presiding in council chambers at City Hall, 1123 West Lake Street in Sandpoint, Idaho. Commissioners Sue Graves, Jackie Albright, Heather Upton are present. Commissioner Jim Quinn is excused due to having COVID. Okay. First on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the commission's last two meetings. Due to a scripting error, the meeting date that was stated in the motion to approve the August minutes during the last meeting was incorrect. Therefore, to clarify and confirm those minutes are properly approved, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the August 18th, 2020 meeting. Commissioners?
Approved.
No, a motion.
I so moved.
A second. So Commissioner Graves and Commissioner Albright. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. The minutes are approved. I will now entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the November 17th, 2020 meeting. A motion?
Motion to approve. Second.
Did you get those?
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes and the minutes are approved. First, under old business is a discussion regarding the historic walking tour brochure distribution and donations collection. I had sent out an email a few weeks ago asking each of us that were calling on places for distributing the brochures, some of which also have donation boxes, to do that. I completed mine a day or two ago and brought $10.57 total into the city's finance office the other day, and they logged that in. Commissioner Graves, have you been able to visit your places?
Yes, I sent you an email. Yes, I deposited $27,
Yep.
but I had to go back to the Oak Street Mercantile yesterday and collected another 4 and brought the brochure container back.
Okay, the brochure container or
The whole thing.
The whole thing.
They don't have room for it, she said, so I brought the whole thing.
Interesting.
So the answer.
Okay.
And you collected the one from Bazaar.
Because they asked me to when I was in there.
Well,
This was a few weeks
Yeah.
ago. It was $5.06.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Because I went in there and they always have to look for it under a counter. I think we need to
They
remember.
were much better until about 9 to 12 months ago about actively having it. I think it may be a matter of who we talk to in there.
Well, there wasn't anything in the container.
Because she had insisted that I take it a few weeks ago because she knew I was involved with it.
Okay, well,
And this was one particular person who I will not name here.
okay.
Just the money or the actual donation box?
No, she didn't have any concern about the money. She just didn't want to have them out because she said they had too much going on and stuff, sort of what you said for Oak Street.
So did you bring the actual
No.
donation box and the brochure?
No, just
back?
the money.
Just the
Sue
money?
may have it,
Okay, Sue brought the rest, right?
Yes, and $4.
Okay.
Okay, and Commissioner Albright, have you been able to visit your places?
No.
Okay. I would suggest we do one more sweep in January because we don't know who the future liaison will be who handles the overall accounting for us on behalf of the city, everything like that. And I just, most of the places still wanted it, but it was a little bit strange at Bazaar.
With Bazaar, yeah.
Yeah, bizarre.
Well, I think we need to be aware that
Ryan's name and
Phone
number.
number. is the contact.
Yes, by the way, do either of you know, will Ryan's number stay in planning or should we bring all these back because his number's on the collection thing or if they need more brochures?
So all of our numbers roll over to other staff, so you may or may not have heard.
Not for us, it's for the public. It's for them. They call Ryan to let him know that they need brochures, and then he tells us.
And we take
because
them.
we are on the list.
But sorry, go ahead, Jen.
And he tells us which stores have called him.
So
To say that they're out, because the box of brochures has been in the planning department.
all of our numbers stay active here at the city, and when staff are out, those numbers roll over to other staff in our service group. So Ryan's number, when he is out, rolls over to Diane, who's our administrative assistant in our infrastructure development services group. So she would follow up.
And eventually, this position that you're trying to fill, we may in the spring or, early spring or
Correct.
something, change that, update that information.
Correct.
Yep.
Yep, support for, as kind of outlined in our new master plan coming through for historic preservation and arts and culture, as well as our plans in terms of city staffing will move over. We are trying to hire a position that will support specifically historic preservation and arts and culture and move that out of the planning division. So
Would
we
it
are
be-
actively interviewing now.
Would it be under the Parks Division because of the
Yes,
position?
it'll be
change?
parks, recreation, and open spaces with arts and culture and historic preservation being the part of culture and recreation. Yep.
By the way, while we're at it, I didn't mean to not welcome Ellie Sussness, the head of the Arts Commission, who's joined us for our meeting today.
Thank you.
Do you still want us to have the brochures out? I mean, because we're in such a time of change.
Heather, well, go
Oh, is
ahead.
that for new business? Sorry.
No, sorry, I just mean, a lot of places really want to have them. I don't think we want to consider not having them out.
It's just going to be, we're going to have to discuss and decide, the city's going to have to decide who goes and fills those brochures. Because it won't be us.
I think that we can maintain the program.
Right,
Yeah.
and still, we're ahead of the horse a little bit here until the city actually approves the change. And some of us will still be involved in the combined commission too, so it's not like we're going away.
That's correct. That's correct.
Same with like pocket sites and everything, just continue as we were.
Yep. I don't see there's a reason to disrupt the work that's been done by the commission.
It's ongoing.
Yeah, the effort is about really improving the work and making it even more robust with more support from the city.
Does that make sense to you guys? Since
Yes.
you were asking those questions?
And right now,
Kind
the admin responsibilities with Rick Decker, with Sandpoint Group, who established pocket sites. So who would, now that Ryan's not in play, again, would I get that information to?
Heather, I'm sorry, but Sue is having trouble understanding.
You're so
Oh,
muffled to me, it's making my hearing, I don't know.
I have a really high voice. I'm just wondering, now that Ryan's not here, Rick Decker was doing, he still has all the admin information for pocket sites.
Oh.
So I need to transfer that over to you,
Okay.
Jennifer, and then you can
Virtual.
give it to whomever to.
It can transfer over to me or it can transfer over to Linda. So
Okay, perfect. I'll CC both of you.
for clarity for the commission members, Ryan Shea has turned in his resignation at the city. So that's kind of the transition with staffing. He's actually planning on pursuing a career in technology as opposed to planning. He's decided he wants to make a whole career change. And so he's actually still with us at the city. His last day is late next week. So in the meantime, Ryan is still here at the city, and any contacts for ongoing work continue to use through Ryan. Ultimately, we had already planned in advance of this a transition to a new position, which we have had posted for some time and are just trying to work through and figure out what is kind of the best fit for us structurally and with people coming in. In the meantime, feel free to use me as a contact. Also, so I have been attending these meetings. I'm kind of the liaison with our steering committee and our consultants in the historic preservation and arts and culture master planning effort. And so we'll be participating in these meetings, and ultimately any change in structure will not be made by the council until considered for the council to be made until their second meeting in January. So we'll be presenting the plan at the first meeting, changes would be at the second. So,
And that also brings up while we're on the calendar, that means we may likely have our January meeting because it would fall between those two, but we can wait and see on that.
yeah, it's whatever the existing commission wants to do.
But I want to make sure that the other commissioners have your questions or concerns while we're on this topic.
I'm good. I just wondered, after Brian leaves, where do we get our brochures? If we need a new supply, who do we contact to get? If we used to just,
Go up to the.
They're
front.
physically
Yeah,
in planning and
I
zoning.
say, lately email Ryan, say I need 40 brochures, and I go to the counter down there and he'd have them ready for me, so.
I would say Sarah, who's in our planning department,
Who?
Sarah Gilmore.
Okay,
She is our assistant planner in the planning department. So she's kind of the front lines.
thank you. That will be helpful. Jackie, did you have anything else, or Heather on this matter?
No, I would, just so it's on the record, I will reach out to Rick Decker and transition any administrative stuff for Pocket Place over to Jennifer and Linda Heights.
Okay.
So that's complete.
That's great. Are there any members of the public attending on Zoom who would like to comment on this topic?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Carrie Logan?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Two things, you might want to have the direct phone number of Sarah to pick up the brochures. And second, your audio is just really bass heavy and muffled. And if you could improve that, that'd be helpful.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Carrie, for both of those things. Okay. The next item under old business, or last item for today, is a discussion regarding the status of the CLG government grant funds and education possibilities for 2021 and 2022. I know this has been an ongoing topic, and when there's been news, we've updated and talked about it. Ryan was good about keeping in touch with them. Both the Idaho Preservation Conference and the national one for people serving on preservation commissions are every 2 years, and both were put forward, unfortunately, 2 whole years from 2020 rather than trying to make up next year. But I want to keep on top of that topic on behalf of the commission and its members, because education is going to be even more important with some of the things from the comp plan or the master plan. And I want to make sure that we can continue to participate and educate ourselves and therefore be of more value to the community. Okay, I don't know if there was anything else. I assume there's no updates, or I would have heard about them from Ryan or from.
Yeah, we haven't had any updates on educational offerings. I think things are a bit up in the air, as everyone can appreciate. And, but we're continuing to watch that, and we'll continue to advise the commission on maybe any changes we start to see as vaccinations are rolling out.
And I am a member of the national organization, so I do get their emails, but that doesn't mean that I'm necessarily getting all the information. Okay, go ahead, Jackie.
So does the commission have money from the CLG grant? Because we were all scheduled to go last fall
And summer.
and summer. to workshops. So that money was already designated. So we still have money in the account from the CLG?
Correct. So there is money that has been allocated for educational training. The way that it works is once you go to an approved training, we actually get reimbursed. So the money is still allocated and it's at the state level, but we still have an open grant. That's correct.
Does it roll forward,
Yes,
both
Yes.
to the state and the national one?
Really?
yes, we still have grant funding available.
I'm
It
sorry, would
didn't
you-
before.
We've been,
We had to use it within that certain period.
maybe
correct.
COVID.
And so with the COVID, we've got the rollover factor now.
our grant period is still open, so you're correct. It doesn't roll beyond necessarily that grant period, but we are still within the existing grant period. So if educational opportunities come up within the grant period, there are still allocated dollars.
But we can't use them for anything else? It's a question.
We can certainly talk about that in January. I can have Linda come in and present an update and also look at, are there rebudgeting opportunities? And
Awesome.
reach out and check into that. Yes.
Great. Are there any members of the public attending on Zoom who would like to comment on this topic?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes?
Carrie Logan?
Yep, me again. So are you going to talk in terms of not only use of CLG for education, but also for either surveying anew or redoing any of the existing surveys? I would highly recommend you do redo the very first one that was done by Nancy Rink, because it was so insufficient.
Carrie, it's a great question, but I believe the answer would be that would be tabled until the disposition of City Council's consideration of the Lakota proposals and the comp plan and the potential merging of the commissions.
Yes, Mr. Chair, what we can do for your January meeting is Linda can reach out and ask about rebudgeting opportunities. So we have that information for your January meeting. And again, in terms of any rebudget submission, it would align with the priorities of the adopted master plan.
And Carrie, I do want to say, and I hope the city, I'm guessing, feels the same way, redoing or updating those surveys is a great priority and one that we're looking forward to as part of the comp plan and Lakota proposals and discussions. So I think that's something we're all committed to, but I believe I'm understanding we can't take action on that at this point.
Correct. I believe that was one of the recommended actions in the master plan as
Absolutely.
presented to the steering committee.
Strongly recommended.
Yes.
Carrie, does that answer your question?
I got to get back on. Can you hear me now? Yeah, no, not really. I don't think it precludes having discussion about what you want to use CLG grants for in the future, but if that's the road you want to take, that's fine.
Good point. Thank you. Okay, new business. The final item on the agenda is discussion of a possible nomination of McDuff's Brewing Company's restoration of the historic building on 2nd Avenue for a forthcoming Idaho Historic Preservation Council Preservation Idaho Orchids and Onions Award. And obviously we're talking orchids here. So it's too early in the process as we've dug into it they're not accepting formal applications or recommendations yet. But I think this is a fantastic idea and proposal. And I'd like to have a vote after discussion of the commission if we support that when the time comes that nominations are open. Also, go
I
ahead.
was just gonna say, when we toured it, I thought, as he showed us all the little things that they found and they included to preserve it, I thought this is a perfect example. So
Yeah,
I
and
would
they
certainly
even did
support
some
it.
things so that if it eventually reverts to a different use, those could be put back, retaining even more of the integrity of the building and the interiors, which I thought was incredible.
I would have to agree with that. I've been working closely with Mickey and Duffy. We put in so for the art, the museum has curated a cultural photo exhibit. And I will be continuing to layer in the historic exhibit on the building's history. And the interesting thing about that building is the museum has incredible archives of photos of the building being built, and we have over 200 blueprints. But we don't have a lot of information about the experiences within that building, oddly enough. And I keep hearing different things from people here and there that were like, oh, I was recruited into the Army down in the basement, or my great grandfather came home from the war and greeted my mother on the steps of that building. And so what we're going to be doing, and we already started with our marketing, we're putting a call out to the community to gather any stories or photos about experiences that happened in that building, because there were so many that did. And so that's really exciting. And Mickey and Duffy are such amazing stewards of that building, and they've done a beautiful job preserving all of the elements, but layering in what they need to do to run a successful brewery and restaurant too. But it's been fun to watch both of them come alive when they're talking about the hidden catwalk, and they do really unusual things, such as they use the postmaster's office as the ladies' restroom, and they put the nursing area in the safe, so, and the examples are endless. The lavatory faucets are from France, and they researched the exact ones that would have been used, and expenses just weren't spared to make sure that everything was historically relevant to that building. And so I just am excited, and I think it's such a great coup for our community. So
They've been exemplary community historic preservation citizens, and that's why I think this idea or recommendation is really valid. Are there any members of the public attending on Zoom who would like to comment on this topic?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Carrie Logan?
Yep, me again. Yes, I think it'd be really wonderful to be able to nominate them for Orchids and Onions. The other thing, when we were touring, I had a brief conversation with Mickey about what I thought was an opportunity to do a really interesting video of him touring the building and giving the kind of information that you're talking about, Heather. And I think that'd be a really good project. And I don't know if CLG funding would support that kind of thing or not, but I think it's worth exploring.
I love that idea. So we're just gonna keep growing and doing more things with them from the museum standpoint. And I think it's a great idea from the historical standpoint, the historic preservation standpoint too. But I think there's so many layers that we can do. This is a perfect example of, what we do in terms of being modern and being progressive with our historic buildings.
And also, this building represents, I believe, a quintessential Sandpoint preservation building, because it's been used for so many different governmental and private uses in the community throughout a long period. So it's a shining example of preservation and continued use.
And so why is it we have to hold back on the nomination?
The nominations aren't formally open yet.
Oh, okay.
We looked into that. So I would like to entertain a motion to submit as soon as the nominations are open, which might be for 2021 or 22, McDuff's Brewing Company's restoration of the historic building on 2nd Avenue for an Idaho Historic Preservation Council Preservation Idaho Orchids and Onions Award. Would
I make a
someone,
motion that we do that.
I
Okay.
second it.
Commissioner Albright and Commissioner Upton. All in favor, or actually any more comment from members of the public attending?
Do we need to let them know that we're planning this?
We've reached out to contact them. We will now go back and say, yes, we want to, if we pass this motion. Okay, back to the motion then. All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed? Motion passes. I think this is a great step forward for preservation and Sandpoint. And the other thing is, we've already done this, but remember last time we had the Orchids and Onions here, was the first time it had been held in northern Idaho. We got more people than they have when they have it in southern Idaho. We raised more money. It was an incredible success. I think maybe it would be good secondarily to also look into the possibility of having it here again and having that be the centerpiece of that year. But this is just a point for discussion or thought.
That's what got me hooked to the group. I went and I was like, wow, this is amazing.
Do we have any other thoughts on nominations, or is that going to be for next time?
I would suggest if we have other thoughts, let's bring it up at the next meeting. And again, I just want to underscore here, if this comp plan and the Lakota proposals and things are adapted and we are merged into one commission, and by the way, they did listen several times and incorporated suggested changes and issues and that various people on arts and preservation and on the steering committee had, one of which is, for instance, the composition of the commission. They've got it down to about 9 now, and they listened very specifically to a couple of the issues that were in the first proposal of 12 about how that makeup should be done. So I do want to say I feel like they listened and they tweaked or improved, updated some of those proposals in relation to this commission. And again, historic preservation is not going away. You know, depending on the makeup of the commission, there'll at least be 3 or 4 of us, maybe even more, if that 9 is adopted. And Ellie and the arts. And we've loved, once again, collaboration we've already done between arts and historic preservation and the museum has been fantastic. We just want to improve upon that. And we believe that there will be some further funding opportunities for projects based on this. Also, though, one of the things I'm very excited about is this comp plan and proposals does suggest very specifically that we move further into historic preservation, not just in education, but in actually looking at some types of design review, other preservation mechanisms, or even code and things, as well as educational opportunities for commissioners. So I feel that this is very promising.
So it says in the plan, the composition is a 12-member advisory,
No,
or is that different
It's
than
been
what we're
tweaked.
thinking of?
There's been a revised plan, and based on feedback again from meetings with this commission, the Arts Commission, as well as the SHPO office. And so that has been revised to 9. We are in the process and hope to have it up actually later today, of getting the revised plan in that issue format like Keoki uses if you've been online, where you can kind of flip the pages.
Right.
Chris Bessler is helping us with a conversion of the existing plan, so hopefully it's easier than the PDF version, and we'll have that posted online, and we will get you the link both of the chairs
Thank you.
to send out to the commissions.
absolutely. Yeah, Jackie, so I guess you hadn't seen some of the updates, but that's why I mentioned that, and Jennifer.
So the commission, this composition says advisory. Is that different than a commission?
No, all of the commissions and committees are advisory to the city council.
Okay, so
So-
that's just a term now used.
Yes,
Okay.
And appointed by the council and the mayor.
that's correct.
Well, some of the things I thought were interesting. There were a few people on the team of the Arts and Culture Consulting Group that have a background in running historic preservation commissions. And I thought their feedback, which we can dive into at a later meeting, was really interesting about what we submitted and how to rework those things, which Carrie is talking about too. And also the fact that they were making a note about highlighting all the craftsman dwellings. So there was some really neat new angles and great new projects, I think, that we can kind of go down. And also, we've talked as a commission about this before, but we don't have a lot of historic examples around it anymore. You know, throughout years, urban renewalization programs and stuff have torn them down to the 80s, so forth. Doing a history of place, I think, is very attractive and very important because we still have our rich stories to share. So
I think that's what all this work is about.
I think we have some exciting things to look forward to in 2021.
I do want to also react,
That's right.
Heather, to a couple of things, because I think we need, as a body or bodies, some of the things that were proposed could be great, but they need more philosophical discussion before enactment too. Like the craftsman thing, that could be great, but it is a lower standard than the National Trust for Historic Preservation. Or there could be, on doing new surveys, there could be more buildings or maybe even more districts than we thought based on the prior surveys. Or also there's another version of that where we can choose to enact sort of preservation light if we as a city want to do that, more inclusion, but differing standards. And I think those are philosophical things that will have to be discussed.
This is kind of an interesting question, but moving forward with the reconstruction of the commissions, will the financial support look different moving forward?
Well, I think that certainly will be a discussion with the city council as this moves forward, whether there is additional allocation of resources. And again, that was the plan with all of these master planning processes, is identifying what the activities are across these processes and look at prioritization across the city as a whole and across all of the plans. So as all of these plans are being completed and culminated, that is the plan this spring going into the fiscal 22 budget, which would start fall of 21.
Great question, great answer. You know, clearly more economic underpinnings and revenue and grant possibilities was part throughout the whole Lakota and steering committee and comp plan processes and our former meetings too. Again, if council, I guess council could accept the plan as it's come up, they could tweak it and, you know, and they may approve it as soon as January 20th, but that's not written in stone yet. But that was multiple cornerstones of the whole plan, was greater economic opportunity for projects and also grants and strength in that area too.
Well, and if I could add, Mr. Chair, to the other benefit with bringing these together and taking a look through the lens of both historic preservation as well as arts and culture, there is set aside allocation of SURA dollars every year as part of their plan. And typically those have only been looked at and used in strictly an arts and culture lens. But with bringing these two things together and looking at where there's an arts and culture component as well as the historic preservation component, it really opens up the opportunity for those funds to be allocated to benefit a broader purpose. Again, it's not moving away from arts and culture, but really looking at the combined arts and culture and historic preservation. So.
And even though the document, even as it's morphed in several iterations for the comp plan, including recently, I do urge us all to read the final thing when it comes that way and is distributed, because it may answer a lot of questions, it may bring up some others, but I do encourage us all to read it thoroughly. It's 120 pages, but it's important.
And it's not final, again, until it is adopted.
Right.
So but they're still taking comment We're still gathering that information going up into the presentation at the first council meeting in January. And our process with the city council as recommended and adopted by the council is when they're considering a plan, they're considering an action of this magnitude, the presentation of the plan will occur at their first meeting and in January, but a decision won't be made until the second meeting in case there's something glaring, somebody that was missed that wasn't aware this is out there. It's not a presentation and an adoption at the single meeting. So feedback will be taken all the way until that final adoption or consideration of final adoption at the second meeting in January.
Thank you very much for that. And that reminds me to say, and if for some reason, I mean, we got to wait and see. It's on that part. It's not that long down the road here. But for instance, again, the redoing or updating of the surveys seems like would be a no-brainer one way or another because it'll be in everybody's best interest. Are there other things that?
This is probably out of order, but did we achieve a final count on how many brochures we have?
You mean left? How many are in the
Yeah.
planning office?
Yeah, okay,
I can ask Sarah for that. Is that what you're talking about?
yeah. I'm just thinking in terms of holding us over through the transition and everything.
We should have
I'm
enough to
getting-
go at least
getting ahead
until
of
Labor
myself.
Day next year.
Okay,
So I don't think that's an issue at all, but I will touch base with Sarah and get an accurate, up-to-date count. And I've also, I'm guessing you guys, I gave out more when I went around recently too, but we should have more than enough to get through the summer next year. If it doesn't, we can address that, but I don't think we have a lot at this point because of what happened with COVID.
so you don't need any information about goals or plans to be able to place in a budget, like how much it costs for reprinting or anything with that? We just will move forward with the new plan and then review that at a later time.
Yeah, our budget for this year is already established and our year goes October 1 through September 30th. So when we're talking about allocation of funds for any additional projects, we're in budget planning in the spring and council's considering the budget and adopting over the summer. So.
Okay.
So that, I think that dovetails well with your question. We can, if it turns out that we will be in need of that, then we can address that on a timely basis before their budgeting is complete.
It's such a fabulous resource. I would love to kind of keep it going.
Well, and remember, we really went to the mat and we were able to do 3,500, way more than we had done before, anticipating, not COVID, but anticipating having them for longer. And I will double check and confirm that and send an email to you guys.
So no more cheeky fundraising, hopefully.
No more what?
Cheeky fundraising. Begging and borrowing. for
Hey,
money.
we've done a good job, but I hear you.
Yeah.
You can try.
Yeah. We did 3 editions of it anyway so far. Is there any other business or topics, including the members of the public attending on Zoom? Okay. Thank you all. Happy holidays. And with no further business on the agenda, this meeting is now adjourned at 11:42.